Okay, thanks so much for tuning into this video. I really want to make it as helpful as possible, as helpful as I can. I'm going to start off by saying this is going to be a little bit raw. It's going to be a little bit uncut, right? I'm going to be open and I'm going to be honest because the goal of this is to help you and show you how you can actually get a job in technology, how you can be a software engineer, how you can be successful, right? I've been helping people, working with people for a few years now. This year, I've helped multiple people land jobs. Go to our website, FAANG. You can kind of see what we do. We have a job board. We have so many great things. Without further ado, let me get into this video. My name is Ramel. I'm a software engineer at a FAANG company. You can go to my LinkedIn if you want to see more into that. And I've been here, been in this field for a little while now. The road to getting here, the reality was it was a rough road. Right? It wasn't a straight flight. It wasn't something that was super easy. And even when I'm here, right, what I've noticed is there's not a lot of people that look like me, right, in these spaces. And I'm not just talking about, ethnicity wise. I'm not talking about being black. I'm talking about, people that don't have the same connection, people that don't have connections to other people that would have been at this company. I'm talking about people who don't have the network and they have no connection. Like pretty much they wouldn't have been at this. There's no way that they could have really gotten here because they don't know anybody. They had no pathway here, right? That's not something that you see a lot often, right? So I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about the journey I got here. So let's run it back. Let's rewind it back to ending of high school for me. Right, ending of high school, I was going to college. I knew I was going to be in engineering, but I actually thought I was going to be in mechanical engineering, right? So that was my major in college, not computer science. I did not know how to code. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I was taking all of the mechanical engineering classes and going down all that, right? You got the physics, you got chemistry, you got math and everything like that. I was doing that. I was a pretty decent student. I must say so. And I finally had the opportunity to do an internship. So I got an internship. And at this time, what I really wanted to do, I wanted to work on airplanes. I wanted to work on airplanes, spacecrafts, anything related to like jet engines and that kind of stuff. It was my dream and my passion. And I thought I was maybe going to Boeing or NASA or something like incredible like that. And that was a stretch for me, right? That would have been the dream if I was able to do something like that. And I finally got an internship as an engineer, and I was in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in the middle of Massachusetts, working at a factory. I was upstairs, right? Downstairs, they manufactured all different kinds of parts for engines, and there's a lot of components, guys, in an engine. So you can imagine, right? There's multiple different buildings, warehouse buildings, where they manufacture different parts for an engine, right? All the blades and the outer part and the whatever, so many different parts of an engine for an airplane. And they would manufacture that. And I was upstairs with the engineers. My job was like actually helping with the designing of the engine parts and components and testing and doing that kind of stuff. And from the perspective of an engineer, I was living the dream, right? That was what I wanted to do. I was kind of living the dream. And I think after a while, after some weeks or so, maybe some weeks or a month or so, I noticed, I'm like, dang, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I started realizing I'm in the middle of nowhere. And on top of that, I'm getting all of these fumes and scents from the factory below, right? I can smell like burning materials, burning metal and rubber and all kinds of crazy stuff I was probably exposed to that I probably shouldn't have been exposed to, right? And I think the biggest thing with it was I realized I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that I wanted to continue doing and see myself doing, right? I was really big into, at that time, apps were big. App development was a huge thing. Right? This was before AI, this was before all of that, right? So I wanted to get into developing apps and maybe even making some software as a company or something one day, right? So we can get into that at a later point. Naturally, was looking at software. I was looking into software, and I actually went to MIT once. Ran into somebody randomly who was like, "Hey man, you can learn how to code. You have the power. You have the ability to do that." Even that's another story for another day that I can unpack. But somebody literally told me, "You can code. You can get into this. You can be a software engineer. You can build an app." And from that point on, I bought a Udemy course, Java, object-oriented programming with Java, by Tim. I forget his last name, but I believe it starts with a B. And that was the first programming class I learned once I got on the path, knowing I wanted to do software development. And I never really looked back. But again, it wasn't easy, right? It got extremely rough after that. And I'm going to tell you how, right? I'm going to tell you how it got rough, because what I went through it's what a lot of people are going through right now. It's the same thing that when people message me and they say, "Hey, I've applied to so many jobs and I'm not getting offers and this and that." I went through all of that stuff just like them. And, it came back around. So after I took that online Udemy class and I learned like the basics of Java programming, which really, really good to learn, I started I continued my engineering degree because I was so late in my career as a college student. I needed to graduate. I started taking computer science classes. And I took like intro computer science classes. I actually took a Java class, and I was able to learn some of the basics in that. And what I noticed was a lot of my classmates were actually landing internships, right? They were applying and they were getting internships. And I said, "Hey, I've had an internship before. Let me apply. Let me get another one, right? Let's do what you've been doing." And when I applied and I tried to get internships, I was getting a whole bunch of rejections. Right? The thing is, I knew I didn't know much, so I wasn't mad at me getting rejection. I knew I was very new. This was something that would take time, and it would be a lot. But I continued applying because I wanted an internship. I knew that was something that was a barrier I needed to cross if I wanted to get into this field and consider myself legit. Again, same thing people are going through now, right? I went through all of this, right? I probably got over 100 rejections. I didn't have a lot of project experience, but every opportunity that I got to work on a project, I promise you I took it. Every hackathon, anything related to software, I completely took advantage. I did hackathons. There was a club that I was in that actually worked with different students, and they would give students advice to actually get these internships in software engineering. And I was at that club every week, right? Because I needed to get all I can get. Companies would come and that kind of stuff, and they would give advice and give tips and stuff, and they had food, so I was there. I eat. When there's food, I'm eating. Okay, so let me tell you how I got my first interview. I got my first interview because I was in school, I was in college, and there was a small, tiny career fair, maybe 5 companies there. I learned about this so last minute. I didn't have a suit on. It wasn't even a real career fair. It was just a few companies were tabling. I got the message last minute. I walked in there and I saw there was a few different companies. I saw Bank of America was there. And I walked up to the recruiter and I said, "Hey, really want to get a software engineering job. I'm an engineer, but I've been learning how to program. I've been learning how to code. And this is something I want to get into." And I remember the first thing she asked me, she was like, "Can you code? Like, can you really code?" I looked at her. I knew I was not good. Like, I knew I was terrible. And I'm like, "Yeah. I'm great." Told her that, and She gave me her card. I later applied, I believe, and I think I sent her an email. And what do you know? Got a coding assessment. And I didn't know how to do those things at the time. I wasn't good. But I think the question, this was so long ago. This was before all these companies were using HackerRank. This is before that. They had their own platform. And the coding question was kind of easy, but I still messed up the coding question. Like something happened. I messed up and I wrote like, if I had more time, I would have did it. And here's how I would have did it. It was either a video or typing of you explaining what happened, what went wrong. It's because I actually met the recruiter and she knew me. She was able to bypass the system. Moral of the story, I passed. And they gave me an interview and they flew me out to New York. And I went to New York, got to the interview. I was super excited, got to the interview, and it was 2 interviews. First interview was so bad. First, there was a language barrier, right? I didn't understand a lot of the things the interviewer was asking, but he definitely asked about databases, which I had no idea. I could not answer any question. I remember he asked me, what's the difference between a relational and a non-relational database? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're both friends. I had no idea what he was talking about, right? So that first interview was a fail. Second interview, the interviewer asked me a question and I hadn't learned it yet. So I told him, hey, I would do it this way based on what I learned. To do it the actual way, I didn't learn it yet. And that was my first interview. Just 2 back-to-back failed interviews, but I got a free flight. And then, we fast forward, did other interviews. I had a few more interviews and I failed interview after interview after interview. Some were remote, some were in person. And I would apply online as well, and I would get rejection after rejection after rejection. But I noticed I started getting more interviews. How? Career fairs, being in person, meeting people. Also, my resume got better. I continued doing projects and stuff. Probably the biggest and most important thing I did, every time I failed any interview or had any approach with the company, I write down that question I got wrong. They asked me about databases. I had no clue. I had no idea what it was, but I wrote down, okay, cool, learn this. Next time somebody asks you this, you're going to know this. You're going to know it. You're going to learn it. They're not going to ask you again, and you won't know. It won't happen again. Next time someone asks you about linked lists, you're going to know the answer. Next time somebody asks you about strings and some object-oriented concepts, you're going to know it, right? And over time, this might have been this was over 12 months, I want to say. It was over 12 months. I had a long list of everything I got wrong. I got this question wrong, this question wrong, this question wrong. And I was able to use that to study, to learn. And I did a lot of mock interviews. I worked with friends and I worked with people in that club I was saying earlier. I failed a lot of interviews. I had it, and the reason I got this, I had an interview from a NSBE conference. If you know what that is, then you know. But it was pretty much, it's a organization that has different companies, has a huge career fair. I got an interview and the interviewer allowed me to do it in pseudocode and I was able to explain my thought process and everything. I got that job. And that was my first, opportunity to get into software, right? And that took a lot. That took a year. That took a year while I was in college. And I went to a decent school as far as technology goes. Right. So how can why is it so hard for most people to get these jobs as a software engineer in the early career? And how can you get these jobs? So most people lack these 3 things. They either don't have all the technical skills, they don't have the network, or they don't have the mentorship and the support. Right. So here's how you can get a job in tech, like almost guaranteed way for you to get a job in tech. You need mentorship. You need people who have done it already or who have a little bit more knowledge than you, who are going to look after you and help you and support you, right? Your mentor could literally be someone online. It could be somebody who's done it, who's just giving you advice, giving you the insights, the real stuff, right? Not the stuff that you're going to read on these blogs and articles. I'm talking about the real stuff of how it really is in the industry. You need a mentor, right? Luckily, I had a lot of support because one of my roommates was his first internship was at FAANG companies, right? So he had like back-to-back internships at FAANG companies, would give me advice. He would tell me how to study. He would help me and just, he was always there to support me, but he couldn't do the work for me. I had to do the work myself. Nobody's going to do the work for you. They can help you. They can give you advice. I had to study. I had to learn what I had to learn, and do leak code and do all of that kind of stuff to get this job. Me. The other thing, I leveraged mentors that I had that were in that club that I was talking about. Other people who were better than me. I used them. I asked them for advice. I said, hey, how do I get good at interviews? Can you work with me? Can you give me a mock interview? Can you look at my resume? Can you show me how to do this? I leverage those people. The technical skills, right? A lot of people lack the technical skills. That's so important and the reason it's important is because once you get in the interview, right, you need to have technical skills to pass the interview, and you need to have some understanding of programming and how to program so you can do well in the internship and get an offer, right? You want to come back. The goal is to get this offer and they bring you back and you work full time, right? Internship is pretty much a full-time job where they literally get to pay you a little bit less and test trial you out for about 3 months. You take advantage. You get that job. You do what you're supposed to do and you land it, right? In order to build the technical skill sets, right? The biggest thing that I did was that summer I had no job, no internship, no nothing. I got 2 of my other friends and I'm like, yo, we're giving ourselves an internship. We're going to build something. We're going to learn. We're going to literally watch tutorials. And that's what we did. We paid for a few courses on full stack development and we started working. We were trying to build a website. We learned the top in-demand skills. And the reason we had to learn it on our own is because they don't teach you that in school. They're not teaching you how to use React. They're not teaching you how to use Node and Firebase and Express. They're not teaching full stack development at most colleges. Maybe some of the newer schools but traditional schools, they don't have that in the education system. We had to learn it ourselves that summer. And we watched these courses and we worked and we started building this project. And we even had another friend of ours who had more experience, who knew how to do it. He would give us advice. We'd call him when we got stuck and we'd be like, hey, how do we do this? And guess what? He helped us. He got us unstuck, right? By the end of the summer, we had some code done. We had code down. We had a very strong understanding. And no, we actually didn't finish. We didn't finish building the project, but we had so much knowledge that we could put it on our resume and we could talk about it. And I could even be honest. I told interviewers, hey, we didn't finish this project. We didn't finish it. However, I learned so much along the way. I know how to implement this, right? And that was huge in interviews. It made me stand out. It gave me the opportunity to write something meaningful on my resume that I spoke about in an interview. It showed that I know how to take initiative. It showed that I know about being a leader. All qualities that a company wants to hire for. Because they know if you're willing to put that much time and that much effort into getting a job, guess what? What are you going to do when you work at this company? You're going to put a huge amount of time, a huge amount of effort into this company, right? And I can trust you because of that. These are the kind of things these companies are looking for, guys. These are the kind of things. And then the last part is the network, right? I always say network is like the super, super most important thing. And this is why a lot of people are not getting jobs, right? People who have all the skills, they have everything. They're really incredible engineers. They've done projects and they're winning hackathons and they're top in doing well in classes and everything like that. They possibly don't go to career fairs, or they don't know any recruiters, or they don't get any referrals, right? That's not how you get a job, right? The smartest student, the guy who does the best in the class, he's not the guy that's gonna get the best job. You don't get to a FAANG company just by having a high GPA, right? You have to go to the career fairs or these conferences, these events. You have to go and you have to talk to these recruiters, right? Sometimes you don't even ask them for a job. Sometimes you talk to them and you ask them for feedback on your resume. You build a relationship with people. You start meeting engineers. You network on LinkedIn. You do those kind of stuff. And those are the people that are going to help you and look after you, right? I was able to build my network because my friends who worked at these tech companies before and in internships, they knew recruiters. So they kind of helped me to meet some of them when the recruiters came to campus. So I could meet them and I could talk with them, and now they know me, right? And also, like I said, I went to conferences like NSBE, and I was a part of an organization where companies used to come in all the time, and we could meet them and we could talk to recruiters firsthand. right? So I was able to get that FaceTime with companies and recruiters. And that means so much because you build a relationship with them. And eventually, right, when, if they like you and they want to help you and they see your drive and initiative, they will do what they can to help you get an interview. And obviously you can do it the normal way and you can go through the entire process, but I promise you, right, most people who get into these companies, and this is the raw and uncut part, right? Most people who get into these top companies, they're getting in because they have a referral, or they're getting in because they know a manager, their friend is there, they know somebody at that company already. Generally speaking, it's very hard to actually make it through the normal interview process. But if you have the right resume, you have the right experience, you most definitely can, right? When I got into Amazon, I was able to go through the process in the normal way, in a normal fashion, right? But other offers that I got at other companies, I had either some connection from a career fair, some contact that I met. I knew a recruiter, I knew someone at the company. I had met someone some way, somehow in the last couple of years, right? So this is the more guaranteed route, guys. I promise you can land a job at a top tech company, but the key is to have, those main three things. You want to have the skills, you want to have the network, you want to have the mentors and the people who are going to support you and make sure you don't fail. Make sure you make it all the way to the end, right? Because I promise you, the reality is once you get into this role, you're not done. Once you get into the role of a software engineer, your first job, you're going to realize you're going to have to do the same thing all over again within the company. You're still going to have to continue building your skills. Why? Software engineering is always changing. It's always developing, right? I've worked in so many different languages on projects that impact millions of people. Languages change, technology changes, things change. That's a part of being an engineer. Your network when you're in a company, right? You're gonna want to have a network. You're gonna want to build friendships and relationships with people. And then mentorship is obviously you want to get promoted, you want to do better, and you want to keep advancing. So there's always gonna be someone that knows more than you. And when you're the new guy, generally speaking, you know a lot less than people who have been doing it 5, 10, 20 years, right? I'm going to have so much more information for you guys. I've helped people this year. I'm passionate about getting people into their careers. And I consider myself like a failed entrepreneur at times because I love to get in the business of helping people, the business of working with these companies and actually helping people. We will see if that can come into fruition and we can really do it on a big level. We're partnering with companies and we're getting people to the next level. But until then, we have programs, we have offerings for people. Go on the websites, look at what we have for you, right? And if you have any questions, drop it in the comments or message me. And that is it for now. Thank you guys. I'm having y'all, man. Peace. And keep going, guys. Don't be afraid to push. Do not be afraid to push. All right, so let's go. Let's push until we get what we have been working for.